keep yourself on the mute. I mean, before starting with the class, if you have any questions, you can go ahead. And we will start with Informatica in a short while. I hope every one of you can see my screen. Right. So in case if anyone has any issues in seeing the screen, or if you have any issues with my voice or anything, please just let me know. I'll adjust from my end. Okay. So yes, Srinivas, you can mute yourself. Like I just made you as an organizer, so it has unmuted. Yeah, thank you. Okay, so we'll start with. So in the last couple of, 2 to 3 classes, we did understand about what is a data warehouse and what is the role of Informatica in the data warehouse, and how the Informatica is being used in the data warehouse and all those things. So today let's try and understand about the Informatica architecture and what are the different kinds of tools that you'll come across when you actually walk into the real-time projects or something, and what kind of tools will be available and what is Informatica is all about. So we are going to discuss about the Informatica architecture and the different client tools available in the Informatica architecture and the latest version what we have available in the market, and all those things we will discuss. So just to give an introduction about the Informatica, Informatica is a corporation which produces different kinds of data warehousing tools, such as you have an Informatica Power Center, which is called as an ETL tool, and you have some other tools from the Informatica, that is your Informatica data quality, which is used for a data profiling, which we talked about, data profiling. And your Informatica Power Center is completely used for the ETL process, which is nothing but extract, transform, and load. We will discuss about that. And you have some other tools called as Informatica MDM. So Informatica MDM stands for Informatica Master Data Management, so which is used for managing of master data between the different data sources. And you have some other tools like Informatica Analyst tool, which is also used for data profiling and master data management and all those things. We will use it. And we also have other tools from Informatica called as Informatica Power Exchange. Informatica Power Exchange, which is used for a real-time integration. Real-time integration in the sense, like suppose, let's say, whenever you want to integrate the data from the legacy systems like SAP and mainframes, Salesforce.com, PeopleSoft, JD Edwards, TIBCO, all these kind of legacy systems, you can directly use Informatica Power Exchange plugin and then directly integrate the data. So all these kind of different real-time integration can be done by the Informatica Power Exchange. Informatica Power Exchange. So we talk about the different tools, and now this course mainly concentrates on the use of Informatica Power Center, which is a very widely used among all these. Data profiling and all these kind of projects, you'll have very less compared to this, and you'll come across more number of projects with the Informatica Power Center where it is used for a ETL process. So to the people who have actually joined today newly, we'll just give a heads up on the ETL process, what is an ETL process is all about, and we will talk about the Informatica Power Center architecture in a short. Okay, right. So to just use, yes, the people who have joined, please mute yourself. Otherwise, there will be a echo which will be coming up always. So make sure that you are muting yourself. Otherwise, it will be an inconvenience to the others. Thank you. So to give a ETL process is nothing but the extract, transform, and load. So you're going to extract the data from the different operational systems which are used for a daily operations, and you're going to extract the data from different databases. Different databases includes, you can extract the data from different RDB. You can extract the data from different RDBMS like Oracle, SQL Server, Teradata, all these kind of different systems, and which is a daily operational data, or it is also called as a transactional data. So you're going to extract the data from different operational systems, and you're going to apply the different business rules, and you're going to clean the data, you're going to apply the different business rules, you're going to validate the data, you're going to aggregate the data, so before loading the data into the data warehouse. So in the transformation level, you're going to do all these techniques. So whereas data in the operational systems is in the normalized structure, so you're going to denormalize the data before loading the data into the data warehouse. So in the data warehouse, you will have a historical data, and the aggregated data will be available in the data warehouse. So to do this kind of a process, you need a tool. That tool is nothing but your Informatica Power Center. So Informatica Power Center is a tool which helps you to integrate the data from all these kind of operational systems, different RDBMS, different legacy systems like mainframes, and other kind of systems, something like a SAP, and it can also integrate the data from different flat files like your text files, PDF files, XML files. So all the kind of a data which is available from the operational systems can be integrated by the ETL process. So Informatica Power Center is a powerful ETL tool which is used to integrate the data from different operational systems. So this is the background about the ETL, and now the Informatica Power Center is something that which is used to load the data into the data warehouse, and inside the data warehouse you will have a aggregated data and the historical data which will be available. So today we are going to understand about what is the architecture of Informatica Power Center. Informatica Power Center, it is being evolved over the versions. Like there are a lot of versions which are available in Informatica Power Center. They have started in 1990, and within a span of 14 years, they have come up with a lot of versions. Now currently Informatica Power Center 9.1 and 9.5.1 is being used by the most of the clients, and there are still the few clients who are using still the 9.1 or 9.5.1 is the latest version available in the Informatica Power Center. So still there are licenses are not available for Informatica 9.5.1. That's why we are still using 9.1, and few of the clients are using still 8.6 also. 8.6 is also used by the few of the clients, and few very old clients are still using a 7.1 is also this. So now we are going to see how the Informatica 9.x Power Center architecture is, and what are the differences from the earlier versions. So what is difference between the 8.6 and the 9.x? So what differences they have made? What are the enhancements that have been made in the Informatica 9.1? So that also we will discuss. As part of the architecture. So to understand the Power Center architecture, so Informatica Power Center 9.x architecture, there is no much difference in terms of Informatica Power Center 9.x from the 8.6. So Informatica Power Center is a client-server architecture. That means client will be installed in the developer system, and server will be installed somewhere in the different location, that is in your client location, and you're going to communicate with your server using the clients. So it's just like your whatever Java that you can think about. So client-server architecture, which means clients will be installed in the one system and the server will be installed in another system, and the client and server will communicate to each other with the help of a internet protocol or with the help of a LAN. I mean, if both are available in the same LAN, then both are going to be communicated. So this is, let's say this is a server which you have, and you're going to communicate with the server with the help of a internet protocol or the TCP, that is your LAN protocol. So LAN protocol. So that's why the Informatica Power Center is called as a client-server architecture. So Informatica clients are divided into so many types. I mean, Informatica clients, again, Power Center clients are divided into 4 types. You have 4 client tools which are available. So one is a Power Center Designer, and the other one is you have a Power Center Workflow Manager, and the other one is Power Center Workflow Monitor. Power Center Workflow Monitor, and you also have Workflow Manager, and the other thing is called as a Repository Manager. So as a developer, you are going to use all these client tools, and server will be installed somewhere in the client machine. So server will be installed somewhere in the client machine, and server mainly consists of two services. Server mainly consists of two services called as a repository service, called as a repository service, and the other service is called as a integration service. Other service is called as a integration service. So you're going to use a repository, how the server will come, how the clients will communicate with the server, and how does the server will receive the request and process the request. So that we will see that. So there are two things that you have to think about. One is the Power Center client, another is a Power Center server. So let's look at the architecture diagram. This is the Power Center 9.x architecture. Power Center 9.x architecture. So the Informatica Power Center is not a standalone product. Is not a standalone. That means it has to be integrated with one of the database. So it has to be integrated with the databases like SQL Server or Oracle database or Sybase. So what is the necessity of the database when you are installing Informatica? What is the necessity of database when you are installing Informatica? So the main thing is that whenever you actually think about the Java program or a C program or any database program, whenever you compile the program, it gets saved onto your hard disk or it gets saved onto database. But whenever you create some ETL programs, all the ETL programs will be saved onto the database called as a repository database. So this repository database will consist of a set of metadata tables. Repository database will consist of set of metadata tables, which will store all your Informatica programs. Your repository database can be an SQL Server database or an Oracle database or a Sybase database. So this repository database is also called as a metadata tables. It contains 700 metadata tables, which I'm going to show you what kind of metadata tables will be created in this, and all these metadata tables which are available here will store all your ETL program information. So we already did during our SQL classes, we did discussed about the use of data dictionaries. So the data dictionaries are something which will store the metadata information about your tables, views, and all those things. Here, this 700 metadata tables will store all your ETL programs. This repository database will store all your ETL programs like mappings, workflows, sessions, all the Informatica Power Center related data will be stored onto these metadata tables. So whenever you are installing Informatica, first you need to install any one of the database. So either it can be an SQL Server database or an Oracle database or a Sybase database. So Informatica will not function without this repository database. This repository database should be created before installing Informatica. So this is the repository database which will store all your ETL programs. So the server mainly consists of two services. One is called as an integration service, another is called as a repository service. So what is the use of repository service and what is the use of integration service? So your server is installed in one system and your clients are installed in another system. Your client and server will communicate to each other with the help of TCP/IP protocol. So if both are not connected in the LAN, local area network, your clients will be communicating with the server with the help of internet protocol, that is IP. If both are connected in the LAN, then it uses the TCP protocol to communicate with the server. So this here, all the Power Center clients, R stands for a repository manager, D stands for a Power Center designer, W stands for a workflow manager, and M stands for a workflow monitor. Workflow monitor. Let's say as a developer, whenever we create some program, and we are saving the program, So what happens is that your Power Center clients will send a request to the repository service. And your repository service will receive the request, and whatever the data that has to be stored, or whatever the program that has to be stored, your repository service will help you to save the ETL programs to the repository database. Do remember, whatever the ETL programs that you save, everything will get saved onto the repository database. None of the program will get saved onto your hard disk in the server. None of the program will get saved onto hard disk in your server. So your repository service will receive the request from the client, and it will save all the program related data, all the programs into your repository database. And whenever you want to retrieve the program which is already being created, so your repository service will also help you to retrieve the program. At the same time, it will help you to save the program. So let's say, let's take a simple practical example. Let's say you're creating an ETL program called as a program 1. You have designed that program. That means you have created the program, and you wanted to compile the program, or you wanted to save the program. So whenever you compile the program, your repository service will receive the request, and it will save the data into your repository database. That it will save it. Now the question is, your repositories, your Informatica is different and your database is different. How your Informatica will communicate with database? With the help of a native drivers. This native drivers can be your Oracle client. You can use your Oracle client to communicate Oracle database client to communicate with a database, or your Informatica will use ODBC drivers. ODBC is nothing but the Open Database Connectivity Drivers. So your repository service uses ODBC drivers to connect to the database or the Oracle client. So Oracle client and these ODBC drivers are called as your native drivers So repository service, what can we understand from the repository service? So the repository service is something that which helps you to save the program, save the ETL program, and helps you to retrieve the ETL program, retrieve the created program. So that is the job of repository service. Helps you to retrieve the program. That is the job of repository service. And there is another service called as an integration service. Now you have created a program. So whenever you are doing something, first you will create the program or compile the program, then you execute the program. So who is going to execute the program? So here the integration service will read the instructions what you have created. Will read the program instructions with the help of a repository service, and it will move the data from source database to the target database. So your source database can be anything. Let's say you want to move the data from table A to table B in the target system. So table A, assume that table A is available in the SQL server, and table B, that is your target, which is available in the Oracle database. So what you do, in order to extract the data from table A to table B, you will create one program. And that program is already saved to the repository database. So when you create an integration service, this integration service will read the instructions from the repository database what you have created, and it will understand that it has to move the data from table A to table B. So your integration service will execute the program, and it will move the data from table A to table B. So what is the use of integration service? Your integration service will execute the program, newly will execute the program with the help of repository service. With the help of repository service, and by executing the program, it will move the data. It will move the data from source system to the target system, SS to the TS, target system. Now the question is that your source system is different and your target system is different. So how your integration service will communicate with the database, your SQL Server database or some other mainframes or something. It will use ODBC drivers or the native drivers to communicate with the database. So what is the meaning of moving of the data? Moving of the data is nothing but your integration service will extract the data. Extraction is nothing but the reading of the data. So how do you read the data from the database? So you're going to read the data from the database with the help of a select statement. So your integration service will fire a select statement to the source database and extract the data, and it will keep it in the Informatica memory. It will process the data and then it will load the data into the target. So how do you load the data into the table? By insert statement. So your integration service will fire a select statement to the source database and it will fire a insert statement to the target database. Insert statement to the target database by understanding your instructions. So it will fire a select statement here and it will fire an insert statement here. How does it understand that from which table it has to extract the data? That is with the help of a repository service, and that is with the help of a integration service. It will move the data from source to the target. So mainly the server will consist of two services. One is a repository service, another is a integration service. So to keep it into the simple terms, so repository service will save the program or compile the program, and your integration service will execute the program and move the data from source database to the target database. So now you have here something called as a domain. So what is a domain? What is a domain? Domain is nothing but the group of computers and group of services, group of nodes. So when I say group of nodes is nothing but the group of CPUs or group of computers. So whenever you are installing your server, you can install the server on multiple machines. You can install your server on the multiple machines. What I mean by the multiple machines in the sense, suppose let's say I have a domain. This is my complete domain, and I can install my Informatica in the multiple machines or multiple nodes, which means if one computer goes down, let's say for some reason this computer, because of the hard disk failure or some reason, it has gone down, you can use another node to communicate. So so whenever you're in the real time, whenever you're installing Informatica server will be installed in the multiple nodes. If one node goes down, when I say node is nothing but your CPU or the computer. Whenever the node goes down, other node will serve the purpose. That is for a high availability. So the domain is nothing but the group of services or the group of nodes is called as a domain. So you have node 1 and node 2. So always the Informatica will be installed in the multiple nodes for a high availability. High availability in the sense there is no downtime. In order to avoid the downtime in the real time, so always the Informatica is installed in the multiple nodes. So one of the node will be configured as a master gateway node. So master gateway node means which receives the request from the client and then process the data among them. So one of the node will be configured as a master gateway node, which will receive the request from this. And now how your integration service and the repository service will communicate, again with the help of a TCP/IP protocol. TCP/IP protocol, by using the TCP/IP protocol, your integration service and the repository service will communicate each other. With the help of that. Now there is one more client tool here. If you look at it, this is the administration console tool. So what is the use of this tool? So this administration console tool will help you to configure the server. So whenever you want to create a repository service, or whenever you want to create an integration service, so always you'll use a administration console to configure. So there are two types of responsibilities when you go in as an Informatica Power Center. I mean, any data warehousing project, there will be two types of roles which will be there. One is called as an Informatica Power Center Administrator or Informatica Administrator. So Informatica Administrator. So Informatica Administrator is a one who configures, who install the Informatica and configuration of Informatica. All these things will be done by the Informatica Administrator, Power Center Administrator. So other role is that Informatica Power Center Developer. Informatica Power Center Developer. So Informatica Power Center Developer will create the ETL programs to integrate the data or to extract the data. So these Informatica Power Center developers are involved in creating the programs or scheduling the programs, and you can also schedule the programs, execute the programs. So all these kind of roles will be done by the Informatica Power Center developer. So for a project, you'll find maybe one or two members who work as an Informatica Power Center administrator, but you'll have more than five to six Power Center developers will be there who uses all these client tools. So all the client tools, whatever we discussed about, this is Power Center Designer, Power Center Workflow Manager, and Power Center Workflow Monitor, and Repository Manager. All these tools will be used by the developer. And to configure the Informatica and to create the repository service, so the Informatica administrators will use the other tool, that is your Informatica Power Center Administrator Console. This is called as a Administrator Console. The Informatica administrators, they use this Power Center Administration Console to configure the Informatica. So configuration of Informatica is nothing but the creation of repository service, creation of integration service, all these things. Creation of all those services, and whenever they need to take the backup, restore, backup of the programs, and whenever you want to migrate the programs from one environment to the other environment. Suppose let's say you're creating the programs in development environment and you want to move the data from dev environment to the UAT environment and all those things. So for a migration of programs, all those things, we will also use the Informatica Power Center Administrator. So the Informatica Power Center Administrator will perform all these responsibilities, and Informatica Power Center Developer will create the programs with the help of your all four client tools, whatever the client tools that we have discussed. With the help of all these client tools, Informatica Power Center Developer will perform the activity. So that's about the Informatica Power Center architecture. So there are a few other things which we have to see. This is about the overall picture about the Informatica Power Center, and I'll show you how this repository service will be created and how this integration service will be created, and what kind of metadata tables will be created here, and how does administration console looks like. So since I have the Informatica Power Center is already installed in my system, so when you go to all programs, so there will be something called as a Informatica 9.1. So under that you'll have a client. So there are two types of clients. We'll come back to this. What is a developer client? So under the Power Center client, you have the client tools. This is your Power Center Designer, Power Center Repository Manager, Power Center Workflow Manager, and Power Center Workflow Monitor. So these are all the four client tools which you're going to use. Yes, Syed. Like Informatica Power Center server, you don't have. I mean, we are going to access that from the remote box. What is being assigned to you? In that remote box, Informatica server is already installed. So by installing the client on your system, you can directly access it, or you can access the remote box where you have a client and server both are installed on your system. But in my PC, my local PC, I have even the server also. So in general, if you go to the real time, you'll not have a server in your system. You'll have only the client. So your client will be communicating with the server. But in my machine, I have the server also. So whenever you want to access that Informatica Administrator homepage, you can just click on this. So when you click on this, this will open up the Informatica Administrator console, right? Yes, Ayat. It will be that you'll always have only the client installed in the real time, and you'll be communicating with the server somewhere which is installed in the remote. I mean, somewhere in the client place. You'll not have a server installed on your system. So all the developers will connect to the same server that is with the help of Internet Protocol, right? So that's just a brief about the architecture, and we still have a lot of things to understand here, how to create the repository service and all those things. I'm going to show you one by one how to create the repository service and the different other things. So before proceeding further, I would like to understand if you have any questions on this so far what we have discussed. Yes. So if you have any questions, so please go ahead with your question, even if it is a simple thing, what you didn't understand about the architecture. So I'll be able to explain from here. And once you're understood about the architecture, then we go ahead and then I'll show you how to create the, what is the architecture of, yeah, Brian, go ahead.
Yeah, got it. When you say the domain and the repository, they communicate with the client, the person and the client, to TCP/IP. You mean like you have to have an internet connection? Is that what you mean?
Yes, you need to have an internet connection. Otherwise, if the server and the client, what you are accessing, suppose let's say your machine and your server machine both are in the same LAN, both are in the same network, I mean to say. So when both are in the same network, then you can use a TCP protocol to communicate. You need not to have an internet connection there. You can directly connect through the LAN. Suppose let's say both are not, your server and your client machine which you are accessing, both are not in the same network. And assume that server is installed in my machine and your client is installed in your machine, and you want to connect to the server which is installed in my machine. So then you need to have an internet connection to connect to this. That is through the IP, Internet Protocol. Got it? Yes, Priya?
And how about these drivers, the native drivers?
Yes.
What are they? What are native drivers?
Yeah. So these drivers are the platform dependent. Suppose let's say whenever you install the Windows, so with the Windows itself, there will be a drivers which gets installed called as a ODBC drivers. So these ODBC drivers are something that which helps you to connect to the database, So these drivers you can create in the Windows or the Linux, wherever it is. So you can create, and your Informatica will use these drivers to connect to the database. So these are all the platform dependent. So you will have a lot of drivers, lot of ODBC drivers, which means different ODBC drivers. Suppose let's say I want to connect to Oracle database, I can use this driver. If I want to connect to SQL Server, I can go with this. If I want to connect with Teradata, I can go with this. So likewise, even you can use Informatica client, Oracle client also to communicate with this. So these are all the platform dependent. Platform in the sense, whenever you install a client in Windows, you can use these drivers to communicate with a database. So I want to communicate with my repository database, or I want to communicate with my source database, then I will use this ODBC driver to connect. Okay. So those are the platform dependent. For a Linux, you'll have a separate drivers. For a Windows, you'll have a separate drivers. So whenever you want to access the drivers, what is being installed in your machine, so go to run prompt and then type ODBC AD32. So when you type in, it will give you the different drivers which is installed in your machine. So when you click on add or configure, so these are all the different drivers which is installed to connect to your database. So whatever you're seeing here on my screen, that is your Data Direct 6.0. These are all the Informatica drivers. Whenever you install Informatica, Informatica automatically install these drivers. Using these drivers, you can communicate with Informatica from Informatica to the database, right?
Okay.
Yeah. Any other questions? Yeah, please go ahead if you have any questions. So do not hesitate, because once you understand the architecture about the power center, then we'll go and understand how the power center 9.x architecture is all about. So I'm going to show you all these clients going forward. I'm going to show you all this. Okay. To proceed, to understand what is the difference in architecture, what is the architectural difference between the Informatica 8.x and a 9.x. When I say 8.x, any version in 8.x with a 9.x. What is the difference between the Informatica 8.x and the 9.x? So architecture of Power Center, we talked about the different products, right? Informatica Power Center, Informatica Data Quality, Informatica Analyst Tool, and the Power Exchange and everything. So till 8.6, your Informatica Corporation used to market the products in a different way, not in a package. So they used to sell Informatica Data Quality as different, Informatica Power Center as different, and Informatica Analyst Tool as different, and Informatica Power Exchange as different. Now from Informatica 9, what they have done is they've combined all the products. They've combined all the products into a single package. Single package. Now whenever you buy Informatica 9, sorry, whenever you buy Informatica 9, your Informatica 9 will consist of all these tools. So your Informatica 9 will consist of Informatica Data Quality, and Informatica 9 automatically comes up with the Informatica Analyst tool, Informatica Analyst, and it will also contain the Informatica Power Center, Informatica Power Center, and it will also contains the Informatica Power Exchange, Informatica Power Exchange. So whenever you buy Informatica 9, from now on, from Informatica 9, it automatically comes up with all these tools, But in order to use all these tools, you need to purchase a separate license. Now combinedly, all these tools together is called as a ISP, which is nothing but the Informatica Service Platform. So they call it as an Informatica Service Platform. So if somebody asks you what is the difference between the architectural difference between the 8.6 and the 9.6, so the difference they have made is that they have combined all these tools into a single package. They have combined all these tools into a single package, and they are differentiating the usage of all these tools with the help of a license. So if I want to use only the Informatica Power Center, I'll buy only the Power Center license. If I want to use Data Quality and Analyst tool and the Power Exchange, everything, then I'll buy a complete license, Informatica ISP license. So in order to maintain the Informatica Power Center, so we are going to use all these client tools, D, M, W, and then the R. So Designer, Monitor, Workflow Manager, and the Repository Manager. These are all the client tools which can be managed by using a Power Center clients. And how are you going to use data quality? So how the data quality can be used? So they have added one more client tool. If you see, when you go to your Informatica 8.6, you won't find the two clients. Only one client will be there, that is your Power Center client. But in Informatica 9, they have added one more client tool called as a developer client, which is used for a data profiling. So that is nothing but the developer client. This developer client, that is a Informatica developer tool, which is used for IDQ, that is for a data profiling. So launch Informatica developer. This developer client or the Informatica developer is used for creating a Informatica data quality programs, that is for a developer client. In Informatica 8, you didn't have this. And there is one more thing called as an Informatica analyst. This is a web-based tool. When I say web-based tool, that means you don't have any separate client tool to access this. You don't have any separate client tool. You're going to access that through the browser. You're going to access that through a browser. And for accessing the Power Exchange, this is just like a plugin. This is just like a plugin which you're going to use, which will have. So now the main architectural difference between the Informatica 8 and 9 is that Informatica 9 is like a package which will consist of a bundle of Informatica products. But Informatica 8.6 was a standalone product. So let's try and let's look at the architecture of Informatica 9. How does it looks now? So we have a different services altogether. This is an Informatica 9.1 architecture. So here you have another tool called as an Informatica analyst, which will communicate with the analyst service. You have the other tool called as an Informatica developer, which communicates with the model repository service and the data integration service. These two services are used for a Informatica data quality, that is for your data profiling. So whatever is highlighted in blue, whatever is highlighted in blue, these are all the old components. You don't have any changes in these components. So whatever is added in the green, that is being the newly added things to the Informatica 9. So they have added Informatica analyst, they have added Informatica developer, and these are all the new services what you have: data integration service, model repository service, analyst service. Now we are going to use this admin console tool, to communicate with all, to configure all these things. So whenever you want to configure the model repository service, or whenever you want to configure the data integration service, all these things can be maintained by using a admin console tool. So together all these components is called as an Informatica service platform. Informatica service platform. So all the blue color components are used for Power Center client, and these two are used by Informatica developer, and analyst service is used by a Informatica analyst, that is a web-based tool. So this is the architecture of Informatica 9. There is a small difference in architecture. Only the thing is that they have added a new components to this. They've added a new components to this. That is how you're going to manage both Informatica developer and Informatica analyst, all those things. So I'm going to show you whether we'll find all these things in the admin console or not. So one thing to understand here is that, so whenever you want to work with, or whenever you want to start with admin console, so first you need to make sure that services are up and running. So how to make sure that services are up and running? So then only you can connect to it. So I'm connecting to services.msc. So these are all the things in the real time you need not to verify, because your server will be always up and running. So when you are practicing, you need to make sure that these services are running or not, then only you can see this. So there is a service called as Informatica. I went to the run and typed services.msc. I went to the run and then typed, I called as services.msc. So this services.msc window here, you can use this to start the service. Once these services are up and running, then only you can connect to any tool. If these services are down, you can't work with Informatica. So I'm going to show you the installation steps also, which will be helpful to you for you to install it on your systems. In case if you require, you can do that. But as part of this training, we are going to provide you the access on the remote box, where you can access all the server and all the client tools on the remote box for your practice, for a hands-on. So we are going to do that. Now make sure that this service is up and running, then only you can log into the administration console. Now I'm logging into administration console. Go to Informatica 9.0.1 server and Informatica administrator homepage. So when you click on that, if your service is running, it will automatically open up the administration console. So whatever the admin console that you have seen here, this admin console is not a physical client tool. You are going to access this admin console through the browser. This is a web-based tool. Web-based. Through the browser you are going to access. So it is going to communicate through the server with the help of this. So this is my, this is my uh, tool. This is my administration console tool. So where I'm going to enter the credentials administrator and the administrator. So just log in here. So once you log in, it will show up all the different repository service, integration service, and everything. So this is a domain. So completely this is called as a domain. And this consists of different nodes. This consists of different nodes. So there is only one node for this domain. You don't have multiple nodes because I have installed Informatica only on my machine. I don't have multiple machines which are connected. So that's why this shows up here as node 01. This is nothing but my node. So one domain will consist of different nodes and different services and the different license information. These are all the different repository service. I'm going to show you how the repository service can be created and all those things. So when you go to the actions, see here you have a Power Center repository service, integration service, metadata manager service, model repository service, analyst service, Power Exchange, listener, everything is there. Everything is there which you can use it. So this will consist of different tools which will be used. So we are going to, this is a domain, and I'm going to show you how to create the repository service and how to create the integration service and how to create the different users in the database, how to create the different users in the Informatica, and how to configure and all those things that we will discuss one by one. So these are all this is the Power Center administration console tool which will be used to create the repository service, create the integration service, and to create the different users and to maintain the different logs, and everything will be maintained from the Power Center administration console tool. I'm going to show you one by one. Okay, so that's about the client. And when you talk about the different client tools, so there are different client tools here. So majorly we are going to use Power Center client tools. We are not going to touch the developer client, which is used for a data quality. So this course completely concentrates only on the use of Power Center clients. So you have a Power Center designer. So when you open up, so it will open up the Power Center designer window. Power Center designer window. So this is a designer where you're going to create the different programs, and Informatica is called as a single sign-on. When you say single sign-on means if you log into one client tool, all the other clients you can access directly. So that's why Informatica is called as SSO. SSO is called as a single sign-on. So you're going to use this. This is Informatica single sign-on. Now I'm going to show you how to create the repository service. So whatever we are doing here, that is just for your information. So in the real-time project, you're not going to create a repository service, you're not going to create the integration service, and you're not going to do any of these activities in the real time. This is just for your information to understand how to create the repository service and where your ETL programs will get saved. So first, even before creating a repository service, so I'm going to show you how to create the repository service. That is the one. So even before creating a repository service, first you need to create a repository database. So repository database is nothing but the repository schema. So schema or the user. So you need to create the repository database or the repository schema or the user. So first you need to create the schema, then only you can start creating the repository database. So now I have already the Oracle database which is installed in my system. I have the Oracle database which is installed in my system. So I'm connecting to my database. So whatever the database that I have, system. So whatever the database that I have, I'm connecting to my database. So called as OLAP. I have a database called as OLAP. I'm connecting to my database OLAP to create the user for a repository schema. So whenever you want to create a repository, you need to create a schema in that. You need to create a schema. So to do that, I'm creating the user. So create user, let's say I'm creating some dummy user. So info underscore sample. So I'm creating a user. So you need to create a user account first before creating a repository service in the database. So that can be an Oracle database, that can be an SQL Server database, or that can be a Sybase or anything. Here I have an Oracle database which is installed in my system. That's why I'm creating a user account in my database. So I'm creating a user account called as a info sample. So I'm creating a user account, and once the user is created, user should have a privilege to create the tables, alter the tables, drop the tables, and all those things. That's why I'm granting a DBA privilege to the user. So I'm granting a DBA privilege to this, grant DBA to info sample. So I'm granted a DBA privilege. So how to create a repository service? So we have created a user called as info sample, and the password is also info sample, and this user has a DBA privilege. This user has a DBA privilege. So go to the administration console, and once you log into the administration console, from here you can select the repository, Power Center repository service. So go to new and then select Power Center repository service. So I went to the actions. I'm coming back again. So I'm showing you again. So how to get into this. So you need to log into the administration console. Then only you can do that. Then only you can do that. Otherwise, you cannot do it. So I have logged into administration console. How did I come here? So you can go to all programs, Informatica 9.0.1 server. I want to log into the Informatica administrator homepage. So just click on this. It will open up the admin console window. That is where you can create a repository service and the integration service. So while installing Informatica, it will ask you to enter the password for administrator user. So I have entered the administrator user and password. So once you install Informatica, then only you can access this. So without installing Informatica, you cannot access this. Okay. So use administrator, and then the administrator is a password. So click on login. Click on login. So once you log in here, you'll have, I have already so many repositories which are already created. So when you log into your machine, you won't find any of them here. So this repository service, whatever I have, right? So you won't find any of them. Now I'm going to show you. See here, I'm connecting to info sample schema. So I'm connecting to info sample. So this is the schema, just like your HR schema. I've created one more schema where I will not have any tables. So when you connect to this OLAP schema, you won't find any tables. Try and check the tables, whether you have any tables in this. So to check the tables, I'm going to use select tname from tab. So you don't have any tables. There are no tables which are available in this, in the info sample schema. So how to create it? Go to the actions, new, select the Power Center repository service. You are creating a Power Center repository. So select it. So I'm creating info demo. This is just for a demo purpose. I'm creating it, and this is just for a demo. Okay. So now I'm selecting the license. You need to select the license, which license you have to use it. So select the license, and you have the node, which node you have to do that. Sorry, one second, let me just. So which node you have to select? So this is the node which you have to select it from. So select the node and then click on next. Suppose if you want to install in another node, then you can select it from here. Okay. So click on next. So here you have a database type. So which is the database we are using? So only these three databases are compatible. DB2, Oracle, MS SQL Server. If you have any other database, then you can't create it. So select Oracle. What is the username that you have created? Info sample. So provide the info sample username and the password is also same. What is the connect string? That is the database name, that is a OLAP. And once you select it, so here you have two options. Content exists under the specified connection string. Do not create a new content. What does that mean is that if you are selecting this, that means there are already the metadata tables which are created in this. Don't create it again. So here in my, Sayed, go ahead. Syed, go ahead with your question, whatever you have. Okay, so yeah, just correct it. So under the specified connection string, you don't have any metadata tables. You don't have metadata tables. That's why select this option. That is your no content exists under the specified connection string. Create a new content. That means there are no metadata tables which are created under this string info sample. So create a new things. And we can also select this option, that is your enable version control. What is this? I'll tell you later. Enable version control. Select it. So if you enable the version control, you can store the multiple versions of the same program. Something like your SVN, CVS versioning tools. So your repository will be a versioned repository. So when you click on finish, it will automatically start creating the metadata tables in the schema. So let's check it whether it will be able to create the tables or it will throw the error. Okay, let's wait. Yeah. So if you see now, it is saying that creation of service contents in progress. So go and see the metadata tables here. It would have started creating the few metadata tables. Still, it is not done. See now, there are 19 tables, 38, 48. Likewise, it will create 512 tables. 512 tables will be created in this schema, which is called as a repository database. All these repository database tables are called as a metadata tables, which will store your Informatica programs. So whatever the programs that you create, all will get saved onto this data dictionary tables or the metadata tables. So see, it will create almost 500 tables, which will be used to store the Informatica programs. 494, 511, yes. So this many number of tables will be created. So 511 tables. All these tables will store the Informatica programs. So if somebody asks you, where does your Informatica program get saved? It gets saved onto the repository database, not onto your server hard disk. Your hard disk will not have any kind of a program related information. Everything will get saved onto your metadata tables. It is just something like your data dictionary. So a data dictionary user underscore tables, which will store the list of related programs. All these metadata tables will store it in this. So this is how you create the repository service. By default, repository service will be running in the exclusive mode. So you're going to change this to normal mode. So whenever you have the repository in the exclusive mode, you cannot connect to the repository. So select it as normal mode and then restart the services. Now you have created a repository service, right? So yeah. So you have created a repository service. Now what is an integration service? Let's say I have a repository service and there will be an integration service which will communicate with a repository service. So how to create a, so let it create. So whenever you create a repository service, this repository service will be available. That means this repository service will be up and running. So when you go to the demo, on top of the demo, you will see this INFA underscore demo, which is available. See here, service process is up and running. Service is running. Service is in the running status. That is your repository service. And similarly, you can also create the integration service. So integration service is very simple. Go to the new and then select the Power Center integration service. Once you select the integration service, enter the name here. So this is just for a demo I'm creating, int underscore demo, and then select the license, and the node is, this is the node which you are creating. I have only one node which I have to create. So click on next. So here the Power Center repository service, which repository? I want to create the integration service for this repository. One integration service can be associated with only one repository. Do remember, one repository, one integration service can be associated with one repository. But one repository service can have multiple integration services, multiple integrations. So when you are providing the username here, this is the username to access the repository. How do you access the repository? By my administrator username and password. This is not the DB username and password. You have to use an administrator. So select it and click on finish. Now I'm creating a int underscore demo, associate the code page. We'll talk about the code page, what is the use of it. So by default, integration service will be in the disabled mode. So just enable by clicking on this. On the right hand side, you have the enable service, so which will be used, So this is how you create the repository service and the integration service. So whenever, if your repository service is up and running, then only you can connect to that. So int underscore demo is the newly created integration service which is up and running. So now here one thing you have to understand, one repository can have many integration services. One repository can have many integration services, but one integration service can be associated with only one repository, not more than that, So integration service to repository is a one-to-one relationship, and repository to many integration service is a one-to-many. So that is how your administrators will create the repository service. And here in the security tab, you can create the different users. So in order to access the repository, you need to have a user account. Right? So in the real time, they're going to provide you the user account. Here also, we are going to give you the separate user account and separate user account to access it. So you can use your user account to do that. So how to create the users? So we have seen now how to create the repository service and how to create the integration service. So, and the next thing is that how to create the users to access the Informatica. How to create the users. So before stepping into this, So how to create the users? I would like to hear if you have any questions on the creation of repository and creation of integration service. And do remember, these are all the activities you need not to do in the real time. So this is being something is done by the Informatica administrator. So Informatica administrator will create everything, and they will provide you the information of user to access and which repository you have to create the programs and all those details. So you have to just start creating the programs. So you're not supposed to create all these things in the real time. Okay. So any questions? Go ahead. Okay. So next thing is about how to create the users. So here, for your practice purpose, on the remote box, we are going to provide you different user ID, different user account, Informatica user account, and how to create that. I'm going to show you that. So Informatica administrator, So go to the security tab. Under the security tab, you can create the users. You can create the different users to do that. And the users, roles, all those things will be available. So when you want to create a user, just go here, create a user and login name. Let's say I want to create a user account for a user called as a Vishnu. Okay, so the login name is that, and the password, I'm providing the same username and password. You can provide the username and password and full name, whatever the email address and everything, you can provide it. So this is the login name and this is a case sensitive. And you're providing that is a case sensitive. So click on OK, the user will be created. But the user doesn't have any privilege. User doesn't have any privilege. So how to assign the privileges? So once the user is created, click on edit. Here you can assign the privileges and you can assign the user to the groups. You can assign the privileges, anything can be done. Okay, if you want to assign it to the groups, you can do it. So the privileges window, you can edit it. I want to assign the privileges on this repository, not on all the repositories. So I want to assign him on this privilege, this repository, all these roles. Role is nothing but the group of privileges again. Role is nothing but a group of privileges. So I want to assign all these privileges. So I want to give him the domain access also. So select it. And if you want to select the different privileges, you can also select one by one. So we have selected a role. We have selected a different roles. And if you want to assign the privileges, you can assign doing it. So the privileges will vary from object to object, how to do all those things. So these are all the different privileges which you can assign. So source. Yes. So while creating the integration service, it should be the administrator user. So whenever you are installing Informatica, by default, one user gets created. That is your administrator user. While installing Informatica itself, this user gets added to your Informatica. So while installing, it will ask you to enter the username and password. That time you can enter the administrator. So that administrator user you can use to access the repository. So you can assign all the privileges whatever you want, and this is how something which you do it. So click on OK. Now I have assigned all the privileges. So now the Vishnu can access whatever the details that are available. He can access the domain and he can access as well as a Informatica demo repository. So that is how you create the different users. So when you go to the real time, what and all are the things that will be provided? So that we will discuss in the further classes. So how we are going to define each one of them and how to define all those things we will discuss. So today we just understood about the architecture and how to create the users, how to create the repository service, and how to create the integration service. This is just for your information what we discussed, how to create and all those. Okay, so in the real time you need not to create any of those. Okay, so any questions so far, please go ahead. Okay, so that's it. I have it for today, and so tomorrow we'll start with the actual hands-on, how to use Power Center client tools, and how to create the ETL programs with the help of a Power Center client tools, right? So any questions, you can go ahead now, whatever the related things, and even you can come up with your questions tomorrow also. After going through the videos, if you have any questions, you can come up with your questions as well, right?